Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. This is the Friday FARcast, albeit a little bit later in the day. It's taking me a bit to put together today's show and try to sort through some of the
Hey everybody, what's going on? This
material.
is
One second.
Robert Phoenix broadcasting.
It would probably help if I plug my headphones in with all the planning there. So what's happening? We got 13 people watching now. We got 2 thumbs up. That's great. I just added the thumbs up myself. So if you feel so inclined, let's see. What do we have here? We got Ani. We've got Julian, Shari with the big H with 10 eyes, and Zero Dragon. What's going on, Zero Dragon? Well, today we're going to talk about, guess what? Julian Assange. How can we not talk about him? It is a big topic of conversation and lots of different layers and levels to try to wrap our heads around with what's taking place and what's happening. And should be a good show. I'm formulating some ideas here. I've already had some idea about who Julian Assange is and was and has been for a long time. I've always felt that Julian Assange was an asset, just like Daniel, now Chelsea Manning, is an asset, and just like Edward Snowden is an asset. And they've all got ties to either the military-industrial complex or some form of mind control. Like Snowden comes from a big military computer family. Daniel Manning, again, comes from a military family. And Assange, while he doesn't come from a military family, comes from a group known as the Family, which we're going to get into today. And I wrote about this. I wrote about this back in 2009. Starting to sound like Alex Jones a little bit. I wrote about this in 2009. I was talking about Julian Assange in 2009. None of you listen to me. So I'm going to reference some of that article today and some of the interesting pieces that are now floating around. We're going to get into a little bit of astrology. We're going to get into some mythology a little bit, some history, kind of where things are lining up. So that's all going to be part of today's program. So let's just go back in time here. Yesterday, actually it was yesterday morning in England. And on Sunday night's show, by the way, I'm going to get into the Assange chart or the rest of Assange. We're going to look at that on Sunday night. We're going to break that down. So let's just, let's do a little screen share here if I can zero in on excuse me, some of the images. Let me just pull this out here that are quite interesting in a lot of ways. Why don't we, let's do this. Let's grab this here. This is really the first image that we could wrap our heads around here. So here is Assange, and this is a very interesting kind of moment in time. Now, first of all, he looks like shit. But whatever. You know, I mean, he's been in this place theoretically for 7 years. Now, how do we know that he hasn't been out of that embassy? We don't. We really don't. I'm just saying, we don't know if he's been out of that embassy. There's a good chance that he's been there for the entire 7 years. You and I don't know that. So I think it's safe to say that we can't assume that he's been there for the entire time. We can't assume anything. Not in today's version of the Matrix, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he's been there for 7 years. Well, this is what maybe somebody who's been there for 7 years might look like, right? He might have a long gray beard, 7 years, the prophet in the desert, exiled, right? So that's what he looks like. Is this Assange? Well, it certainly looks like him. Now, what it feels to me is that this is more like an extraction than an arrest. That's what it feels like. More of an extraction than an arrest. Now, what's really interesting is that, what do I mean by that? Well, an extraction is when somebody who works for the government or a military group or military agency is embedded in a certain situation, and they go in and they extract that individual. They bring them out. It's like a rescue in some ways. So is this the beginning of an extradition, or is this an extraction? Now, it's interesting because down here we have this copy of a book by Gore Vidal, and the name of the book is Julian. Now, is he really holding that book? I'm just wondering. I'm sure he probably is, but it definitely looks photoshopped, and it's positioned perfectly so that we're getting a full frontal view of the book. So we have Julian. We have Julian. Julian is a novel that's been written by Gore Vidal. Gore Vidal passed away. Interesting character. He's related to Al Gore. Al Gore is his nephew, and they come from a long line of blue bloods. I'm sure you've heard of Gore-Tex, which is the fiber that is used on rainwear, all resistant weatherwear, tents, things like that. That's from the Gore family. They have a patent on Gore-Tex. So Gore Vidal, he used to be on Bill Maher a lot when he was alive, and he used to give his brother, or nephew rather, shit. His cousin. Al Gore was his cousin. He used to give him shit all the time. He didn't like him very much. Gore Vidal is kind of interesting. He's on the fringe of a conspiracy theorist. He called himself a conspiracy analyst versus a conspiracy theorist. He was gay. Some of his novels are quite interesting. Some of them actually predict future events and future phenomenon. One of them being Myra Breckinridge, which has to do with transsexualism and transgenderism. Myra Breckinridge was made into a movie that starred Raquel Welch. And it was a complete bomb at the box office. But Hollywood doesn't care. They just like to lob these cultural projectiles out into the system and out into the world. Gore Vidal also wrote a book called Kalki, and it's an apocalyptic novel that has a Messiah figure, a white Messiah figure, at the center of it. It's kind of a hoax. This whole shtick around being the world avatar is a hoax, and in fact, he's an ex-military guy. I think his name is Kelly, Captain Kelly, and it's about this plan to basically wipe out most of humanity and hit the reset button. Now, Julian is about something different altogether, but it's interesting, and I think it's telling with what's going on in terms of what they're doing with Assange. So what I want to do is I want to read you the description for the book Julian. It's from Wikipedia, different wiki. It says Julian is a 1964 novel by Gore Vidal, a historical work of fiction, written primarily in the first person, dealing with the life of the Roman Emperor Flavius Claudius Julianus, known to Christians as Julian the Apostate. And he had a very brief reign, only 3 years, 360 to 363. So this will probably be the time that we'll be dealing with the Julian Assange after effect. The story of the novel begins in March of CE 380, nearly 20 years after the death of Julian. It starts as the text of a series of letters between Libanius and Precession of Equinoxes, two confidants of Julian. In their various letters, they discuss their lives, and in particular the recent events involving the imperial edict of Theodosius involving the Nicene Creed of Christianity. In his first letter to Priscus, Libanius proposes to write a biography of Julian. Eventually, Priscus agrees to send a manuscript written by Julian himself to Libanius, along with his own comments written in the margins. The rest of the novel is presented as the manuscript of Julian in its original form, including instructions to the eventual editor and publisher. The marginal notes of Priscus are incorporated into Julian's narrative where he feels fit to comment or expand on certain parts of the narrative. These comments are often followed by the comments of Libanius on both the narrative and the comments of Priscus. Frequently, they offer a different and sometimes contradictory hindsight interpretation of events and people than Julian expresses in his manuscript. The narrative of Julian presents his life story, but it is very self-reflective in parts. He attempts to be critical of his own shortcomings, as well as trying to reconstruct his thoughts and emotions at various points in his life and public career. He frequently incorporates his own observations on everything from human nature to religion, philosophy, and government. So this is interesting. Julian is the last direct relative of Constantine the Great. Remember, Constantine is the guy that basically flips Rome into Christianity. To take up the purple being the color of Rome, right? That's the noble color, the royal color of Rome. Remember, what was the color that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were wearing when she finally acknowledged defeat Trump? They were wearing purple. That was their color. And who died not long before that? It was Prince, the purple one. And there were connections to the Queen and on his death, and there was all kinds of really, crazy, interconnected kind of hyper symbolism with Prince. Prince being royal, purple being the royal color. And we've been in for all intents and purposes, a purple revolution, Prince and the Revolution, ever since then, right? That's what's been going on. This is the Bolshevik uprising within the boundaries of the United States of America. That's what's taking place. And it's all connected to 1917, 2017, when Trump when he went in, and the election itself in 2016 was on 11/9, which is the same day that the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, comes to an end. So we've had this Bolshevik theme going on in the background the entire time. and it's still taking place. And as I've noted before, the neocons are really sort of the Bolsheviks in a different cloth. So that's going on. That's taking place. So the color purple plays a fairly significant role here. Julian, he's the last theoretical descendant of Constantine to wear the purple. All right, let's keep going. All right, here we go. Let's see. As emperor, okay, this is important. As emperor, this is Julian now, he attempted to destroy the influence of the Christian church. Ooh. His goals were to bring back, firstly, the worship of the old Roman pantheon. Secondly, other religions, and this is really important here to wrap your head around, including Judaism. This is in parentheses. He attempts to restore the Jewish temple. What is Trump in the process of doing? He's in the process of resurrecting and building the third temple. And this is his pet project through Jared Kushner. And it's always been a stated goal from the beginning. Sheldon Adelson, who is one of Trump's enormous, and I mean that both, clearly on the surface, enormous, and symbolically, backers. So that and Adelson is, look, here's the money, rebuild the temple. Recognize that Jerusalem is going to be the capital of Israel. And then what we've seen as a result of that is a domino effect, and a number of other countries beginning to move their embassies, their consulates to Jerusalem. Of course, this is going to, where it's located, that's in Palestinian territory. And not only is it in Palestinian territory, but the temple has been built over by the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Rock of the Dome. And now you have a whole other group of people who've been weaponized and mobilized already, who are starting to get pissed off at this idea that, well, maybe, just maybe, the third most important symbol, structure in Islam might actually be taken down, removed, superseded, or supplanted by the third temple, the resurrection of the Temple of Solomon. And then, of course, you've got a bunch of Palestinians who are like, come on, this is our last little, piece of earth that, we've been eking out a medieval existence with. So it's created a lot of conflict, Sturm und Drang, as the Germans would like to say. But Julian, the emperor, that's one of his goals, okay? To resurrect the temple. Remember that. That's important. And thirdly, with special emphasis upon the growing crisis of Rome's frontiers, we've got a border issue. Mithraism, a mystery religion that had been popular among the Roman soldiers. Well, what is Mithraism? Mithraism, also known as the Mithraic Mysteries, was a mystery religion also centered on the god Mithras that was practiced in the Roman Empire. And it was from the 1st to the 4th century CE. The religion was inspired by Iranian worship and the god Mithra. Through the Greek, Mithras was linked to new and distinctive imagery. And the level of continuity between Persian and Greco-Roman practice is debated. The mysteries were popular amongst the Roman military. Worshippers of Mithras had a complex system of 7 grades of initiation and communal ritual meals. Initiates called themselves syndaxioi, which means those united by the handshake. Who do we know who has handshakes? Those united by the handshake. Who has the secret grips? They met in underground temples, now called Mithraea, which survive in large numbers, deep underground military bases. The cult appears to have had its center in Rome and was popular throughout the western half of the empire, as far south as Roman Africa and Numidia, and as far north as Roman Britain, and to a lesser extent in Roman Syria in the east. Mithraism is viewed as a rival of early Christianity. In the 4th century, Mithras faced persecution from the Roman Christians, and the religion was subsequently suppressed and eliminated. Numerous archaeological finds, including meeting places, monuments, and artifacts, have contributed to modern knowledge about Mithraism throughout the Roman Empire. The iconic scenes of Mithras show him being thrown from a rock, born from a rock, slaughtering a bull, and sharing a banquet with the god Sun. About 420 sites have yielded materials related to the cult. Among the items found are about 1,000 inscriptions, 700 examples of the bull killing, which is also known as tauroctony, and about 400 other monuments. It has been estimated that there would have been at least 680 Mithraea in Rome. So those are temples. No written narratives or theology from the religion survive. Limited information can be derived from inscriptions or in brief or passing references in Greek and Latin literature. So this is interesting. This is the religion that Julian wanted to promote. And it was the religion of the military. It was a religion of initiation. It was a religion that happened in secret temples. It was a religion that was based on secret handshakes. Where have we heard that before? So let's get into the etymology of Mithras. Let's get rid of this. Let's do a little Mithras imagery so you guys can wrap your heads around that. Let me see what we have here. Let me find a good Mithras image. Okay. There's a lot of gaming. There's a lot of gaming imagery of Mithras. Very interesting. Let's do this. So here we go. Let me throw this out there so you guys can see this. You can wrap your hands around it, heads around it. So here we have Mithras slaying the bull. Okay. First, we're dealing with the sign of Taurus, with the invocation of the bull. And where is Uranus? Taurus. And Julian Assange, obviously known for his computing ability and his ability to leak pertinent, important information to the rest of the world. Let's get back into this definition or the description of Mithras, which I think is interesting. One second, grab it. Okay. So the name Mithras is a form of Mithra, an old Persian god, a relationship understood by Mithraic soldiers since the days of Franz Cumont. An early example of the Greek form of the name is from the 4th century BCE work by Xenophon, the Cyberpedia, that's the Cyberpedia, that's the name of the work, which is a biography of the Persian king Cyrus the Great. Who does Trump share the 2-cent shekel with in Israel? It's Cyrus the Great. The exact form of Latin or classical Greek word varies due to the grammatical process of declension. There is archaeological evidence that in Latin, worshippers wrote the nominative form of the god's name as Mithras, Mithras. However, in Porphyry's Greek text, the Abstentia, there was a reference to the now lost histories of the Mithraic mysteries by Euboleus and Pallas, the wording of which suggests that these authors treated the name Mithra as an indeclinable foreign word. So the Sanskrit Mitra also shows up in the Rig Veda. The name of God praised in the Rig Veda, it means friend or friendship. And it also shows up in a treaty between the Hittites and the Mitanni from about 1400 BCE. It is also known as Mitra. So we have friend, we have God, we have treaty, friendship. The Iranian Mithra and Sanskrit Mitra are believed to come from an Indo-Iranian word Mitra, meaning contract, agreement, or covenant. Okay, contract, agreement, or covenant. So if we go back to Julian, Julian is the promoter of the Mithraic mysteries. And in that, we see embedded a contract, a covenant, and an agreement. So if we can deconstruct this and reconstruct it and put it all together, what I'm beginning to sense or piece together is a contract and a court agreement between all these parties. And that Julian Assange is kind of a central figure that will begin to evolve and tell a new story and create a new mythology. So modern historians have different conceptions about whether these names refer to the same god or not. John R. Hinellis has written of Mitra, Mithra, Mithras as a single deity worshipped in several different religions. On the other hand, David Ulansey considers the bull-slain Mithras to be a new god who began worship in the 1st century BCE and to whom an old name was applied. So we see this kind of syncretic aggregation of the various versions of Mitra, Mithras, Mitra, Mithra. But then there's this new version, a new mythology that's born out of it. The new mythology part is important. Wrap your head around that. Because that's what we're dealing here. We're dealing with a new mythology. Mary Boyce, a researcher of ancient Iranian religions, writes that even though the Roman Empire Mithraism seems to have had less Iranian content than other historians used to think, nonetheless, as the name Mithras alone shows, this content was of some importance. So the bull slaying scene. Let's get into the iconography. Much about the cult of Mithras is only known from the reliefs and sculptures. There have been many attempts to interpret the material. Mithras worship in the Roman Empire was characterized by images of the god slaughtering a bull. Other images of Mithras are found in the Roman temples. For instance, Mithras having a banquet with the sun. The depictions of the birth of Mithras from a rock. But the image of bull slaying, which is also again known as Taurectony, is always the central niche. So if you look at the alchemical signs of the zodiac, they're Taurus, they're Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And Aquarius can often be seen as the eagle. And the eagle sometimes is interchanged with Scorpio, the eagle, and the serpent. It's very alchemical. Why? Why are these alchemical? Why are they alchemical symbols, and why aren't the others alchemical symbols? I have a theory. And my theory is that when you look at the signs, first of all, they're fixed. They're fixed signs. And as a result of being fixed signs, the energy is rooted. And when you break into the energy of a fixed sign, you're dealing with kind of the highest degree of potentiality. You know, one might think that the cardinal signs be related to the various cycles of the season would have that same potentiality. The answer to that could be true, but that's initiatory energy. And there are two things that separate the mutable signs and the cardinal signs from the fixed signs. And that has to do with the fact that in the mutable and the cardinal signs, and I will put an asterisk here with the fixed, because I'm looking at Aquarius as the eagle. That when you get into the cardinal and the mutable signs, you're dealing with signs that have either humans or, in the case of Libra, mechanical object. So, and in the mutable signs, we see a half human and a half animal. We see the twins. We see a virgin who's a woman. We only see one true animal. The fish is a Pisces. In the cardinal signs, we have the goat, we have the crab, we have the ram, and then of course we have the scale. So I think when we get into the fixed signs, as it relates to alchemy, it's not just that they're fixed and then they're trying to slam these elements together to come up with a really combustible potentiation, but also to bring in the qualities of those animals or those manifestations, right? To have the strength of the bull, the courage of the lion, the power of the snake, and the vision of the eagle. And you put all those together, what do you have? You have the Ubermensch or the Overman, somebody who has incredible power. So these are the reasons why, in my estimation, thumbnail, that the fixed signs are alchemical, because they're more than just signs. They're approximation of powers that the individual, through a series of supernatural workings or catechisms, would then begin to inhabit, or those powers begin to be transferred onto them. Okay, so the bull plays a huge role, and it's the first symbol of the fixed sign sequence. So it's power, strength. All right, let me continue here. Okay, in every Mithraism, the centerpiece was a representation of Mithras killing a sacred bull, an act called tauroctony. The image may be a relief or freestanding, and side details may be presented or omitted. The centerpiece is Mithras clothed in Anatolian costume and wearing the Phrygian cap. That's the Phrygian cap right there. See that? Now, what is a Phrygian cap? The Phrygian cap, or the Liberty cap, is a soft conical cap with the apex bent over, and it's associated with antiquity, obviously, right? It can be seen in Eastern Europe, Anatolia, Phrygia, Dacia, and the Balkans in early modern Europe. It came to signify freedom and the pursuit of liberty. Through confusion with Peleus, the felt cap of manumitted, emancipated slaves of ancient Rome. In artistic representations, it signifies freedom and the pursuit of liberty. It is used in the coat of arms in certain republics, republican state institutions, in the place where otherwise a crown would be used. In the heraldry of monarchs, it thus came to be identified as a symbol of the republican form of government. A number of national personifications, particularly France's Marianne, are commonly depicted wearing the Phrygian cap. Okay? So there's a lot more on the Phrygian cap, but it represents being free. Now, in early Christian art, continuing on to the Middle Ages, they build on the same Greco-Roman perceptions of the pseudo-Zoroaster and his magi as the experts in the arts, astrology, and magic routinely depict the three wise men. They're all wearing Phrygian caps. Interesting, right? The Phrygian cap reappears in figures related to the 1st and 4th century religion Mithraism, the astrology-centric Roman mystery cult projected itself with pseudo-oriental trappings known as Precession in scholarship. And in order to distinguish itself from other Roman religion, from the other mystery cults in the artwork, again, the Tauroctony, the cult images, the figures of the god Mithras, as well as those of his helpers, Caudes and Caudapedes, are routinely depicted with the Phrygian cap. The function of the Phrygian cap in the cult is unknown, but it's conventionally identified as an accessory to its Precession. So there's your depiction of the Phrygian cap. Let me show you this, this bas-relief of Julian. It's another, sorry, not of Julian Mithras, whoops, of Mithras. Let me grab this. Let me share this with you. So here's the relief right here. And here is Mithras, Mithra, slaying the bull. And as you can see, is the Phrygian cap here, Phrygian cap here, and the Phrygian cap here. But to me, it almost reminds me of a foreskin, right? That's what it reminds me of. And this could be a depiction in some ways of the hood, right? So we have the slaughter of the bull, the Tauroctony, and the beginning of this mastery over the age of Taurus. And what follows Taurus in the precession of the equinoxes? It's the age of Aries. It's the age of war. It's the age of conquest. Right? This is an important sort of pronouncement. Now, this is not what happens in the time of Julian, right? In the time of Julian, they've moved on to the beginning of the Piscean age. And the age of Aries spans the gap between the age of Taurus and the age of Pisces. So this is the subduing of the age of Taurus and the beginning of the age of Aries. Okay, so let's go back into over here. Over here. Okay. I'll read this to you. So this is the bull slaying scene, right? The Phrygian cap, the bull, holding the bull by its nostrils, left hand, and stabbing it with his right. So he's holding the bull with his left hand and stabbing it with his right hand. As he does so, he looks over his shoulder towards the figure Saul. So he's looking at the sun. A dog and a snake reach up towards the blood. Interesting. And, okay, well, this is with here. I got to pull this out again, but I need to read this at the same time. This is good stuff. Let's see if I can retain that beautiful. If I can retain that beautiful. That beautiful sense of detail here. Let me grab this one. So much better image. There we go. Than that tiny one. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's launch this again. Because I can do the narrative now with this. There we go. Okay, so this is fast. So you can see down here, here's the Scorpion, which is the opposite sign of Taurus, right? There it is right there. Fascinating. He's looking behind him at the sun. You see how the light, is cast? And we have the shit was beautiful, actually. You have the shadow. What is the sun? It's Leo. So we have 3 parts of the zodiac right here. Sun, Leo, Taurus, the bull, and then we have Scorpio. So we have a trinity here. Interesting. And I'm going to go on record and I'm going to make a bit of a leap here with the Phrygian cap being connected also to the sign of Aquarius because he's wearing it on the head. And in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius is exalted. And the Phrygian cap also looks like a wave, right? Looks like the crest of a wave or water or the water bearer. So we can see here in this bas-relief 3, potentially 4, if we can make this leap with the Phrygian cap, 4 elemental aspects of astrology, the fixed signs. All right, let's continue here. I'll leave that up there for you guys to look at. Let's see what, okay, here we go. The dog and a snake reach up towards the blood. A scorpion seizes the bull's genitals. A raven, here we go, is flying around or is sitting on the bull. It's not an eagle, it's a raven. 3 ears of wheat are seen coming out of the bull's tail. Sometimes from the wound. The bull was often white. The god is sitting on the bull in an unnatural way with his right leg constraining the bull's hoof. You can see it right there, right? Like he's holding that hoof down with his right leg. He's using his left knee as leverage. He's pulling the snout back, and he's got the sword right here. And that's actually where you want to kill a bull, right there between the scapula. Okay. All right, so this is, okay, so here we go. Let's keep going. This is great. I love this. The 2 torchbearers on either side are dressed like Mithras, Caltes with his torch pointing up towards Catapetes, the torch pointing down. Sometimes Caltes and Catapetes carry shepherd's crooks. So there they are, right there, Caltes, Catapetes. Gemini, question mark. The event takes place in a cavern into which Mithras has carried the bull after having hunted it down, ridden it, and overwhelmed its strength. Sometimes the cavern is surrounded by a circle on which the 12 signs of the zodiac appear. I'll give you another image of that. We can't really see it here, right? But let me pull this one. You say. If this is the right image. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not quite. I'm just trying to. It's too indistinguishable. Let me keep going here. Sometimes the cavern is surrounded by a circle on which the 12 signs of the zodiac appear. Outside the cavern, top left, is Sol, the sun, with his flaming crown, often driving a quadriga. It's a chariot. A ray of light often reaches down to touch Mithras. At the top right is Luna with her crescent moon, who may be depicted in driving a biga. In some depictions, the central tauroctony is framed by a series of subsidiary scenes to the left, top, and right, illustrating events in the Mithras narrative, Mithras being born from the rock, the water miracle, the hunting and the riding of the bull, meeting Saul, who kneels to him, shaking hands with Saul, sharing a meal of bull parts with him, and ascending to the heavens in a chariot. In some instances, in the case of the stucco icon at Santa Prisca, the Mithraism in Rome, the god is shown heroically nude. Some of these reliefs were constructed so that they could be turned on an axis. On the backside was another more elaborate feasting scene. This indicates that the bull killing scene was used in the first part of the celebration. Then the relief was turned and the second scene was used in the second part of the celebration. Besides the main cult icon, a number of Mithraea had several secondary tauroctonies and some small portable versions, probably meant for private devotion, have been found. So this is the slaughtering of the bull. It's fascinating stuff. And the sun raining down the light and the energy to Mithras is responsible in many ways for the power and the glory of slaying the bull. So we're into the religion of the solar deity. Where were we last year? We had the true node in Leo, and then the south node in Aquarius, right? And what did I say last year? I said that we're moving away from the Dionysian, and we're moving more towards the Apollonian. And if you've ever looked at Trump's pad at the top of Trump Tower, it is basically a shrine to Apollo, the sun god. So we're moving towards this Apollonian kind of energy, and the dismissiveness or even the slaughter of the Dionysian side, right? And even to some extent, Julian Assange, who is a Cancer, by the way, would be considered more Dionysian. He is not necessarily an Apollonian figure. Why? Because he's not in the light of day. He's dwelt in darkness for 7 years. That's what he's been doing. And he is revealed. He's been a revelator through indirect means. He's been a revelator through WikiLeaks, which is dark. You know, it's the dark underbelly in many ways of the cyber world. It's not like somebody getting on camera and reading something, declaring something. There's a lot of, I don't want to say subterfuge, but I think there's a lot of gray area with WikiLeaks, which we'll get into. I'm going to bring up some information as we move through this part. Gets into it. So this is what's happening. This is what's taking place. At least on a mythological. There's more. Let me read more. Okay. Sorry, somebody called me. Got a little distracted there. So we have the banquet scene. Let me read this. Robert Turcon has argued that since the caduceus is an attribute of Mercury, in mythology, Mercury is depicted as a psychopomp. The psychopomp is like a symbol that moves between worlds, like a horse is a psychopomp. Right? The eliciting of flames in the scene is referring to the dispatch of human souls and expressing the Mithraic doctrine on the matter. Turcon also connects the event to the Tauroctony. The blood of the slain bull has soaked the ground at the base of the altar, and from the blood of the souls are elicited in flames by the caduceus. Interesting stuff. So Mithras was born from a rock. How about that? He's a rock god. He is the first rock god. Sometimes, okay, so he's got, let's see, let me read this. Mithras is depicted as being born from a rock. He is shown as emerging from a rock already in his youth. He's not a baby. This is like, he's like a virile young guy. Right? Full frontal. I got full frontal right here on Mithras. He's coming out of the rock. In one instance, he has a globe in one hand and sometimes a thunderbolt is seen. There are depictions in which flames are shooting from the rock and also from Mithras' cap. One statue had its base perforated so that it could serve as a fountain. Oh, interesting. Water coming out of the fountain or out of the rock. And the base of another mask has the water god. Sometimes Mithras also has other weapons such as bows and arrows. There are also animals such as dogs, serpents, dolphins, eagles, other birds, lion, crocodiles, lobsters, snails. He's a pantheistic figure here. On some reliefs, there is a bearded figure identified as Oceanus. Oceanus, by the way, is the grandfather of Chiron. The water god, and there are other gods, and on some there are the gods of the four winds. In these reliefs, the four elements could be invoked together. Sometimes Victoria, Luna, Sol, and Saturn all seem to play a role. Saturn in particular is often seen handing over the dagger to Mithras so that he can perform his mighty deeds. So Mithras is a very interesting character, super interesting. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And this is the character, this is the god that Julian wanted to bring back, right? This was his god. Go back and Julian. So this is from, again, Gore Vidal, the book Julian. The book takes the form of correspondences between two Hellenistic pagans, Libanius, who's considering writing a biography of Julian, Priscus, who possesses Julian's personal memoir. Christianity has, by this stage, become the official religion of the Roman Empire as decreed by the Emperor Theodosius. Theodosius, interesting character. Okay? Remember that name. With rioting and inquisition causing extreme violence between traditionalists and Christians, and even between Christian sects. Only 30 years after the novel took place, the city of Rome would be sacked by the Goths. The memoir relates Julian's life from the time so many members of his family were purged by his cousin, the Emperor Constantius II, who he succeeded on the throne. So, why are we being shown this novel by Gore Vidal as it relates to Julian Assange? given everything I've just said, there are two critical points here. Two critical points. Number one, we have this historical figure, Julian, who really wants to do away with Christianity. He wants to promote Judaism, and he wants to promote the building of the temple. That's what he wants to do. He also wants to bring back the mystery cult, the Mithraic mystery cult religion, which is a military religion, which is signified by people meeting in secret places, subterranean temples, and they are known amongst one another by their handshakes. So remember Theodosius, okay? Remember Theodosius. So one of the things that's really interesting, and I'm going to continue to kind of roll with this here, is that my good friend Heather from Beyond Astrology with Heather had a nice little post on Facebook, and what she put up there was that the last time Saturn and Pluto were together, conjunct in, or roughly conjunct in the sign of Capricorn, you have to go all the way back to Martin Luther and the Reformation of the Church, which is when the Catholic Church, which really starts with Constantine flipping the script. For whatever reason, he decided to flip the script. That's when we have really the birth of the Catholic Church through Constantine, right? And that ends with, to some degree, the Reformation and Martin Luther. This Theodosius character plays a role as well. So we haven't had, and I'll get back to Theodosius, we haven't had a Saturn-Pluto conjunction like this since the time of the Reformation. And Assange now becomes, in the light of this, he becomes a pivotal character. We add in the connection to Julian, who was emperor for 3 years, and his historical track, the things that he was in favor of, what he wanted to bring back, rebuild. Those are all current themes now. You know, we're dealing with the rebuilding of the third temple. That is on the fast track. They want this to happen. And of course, Trump is the builder. It's what he does. He builds. Now, my good friend Eddie Lynn, who's really brilliant at a lot of this analysis, he makes this connection between Trump and Biff from Back to the Future. Clearly, it's easy to make that connection because Biff plays a Trumpian character who's got a hotel, he's president, the world kind of goes to shit, right? So he also makes a connection between Biff and Hiram Abiff, who was one of the architects of the temple, struck down, and of course becomes a Christ-like figure for Freemasonry. And then there's another version of Trump, and Trump as Nimrod, and Nimrod being the tower builder, the Tower of Babel. They're both builders. So Trump begins to take on these kind of mythic qualities. And so if you're a group that's invested in that, like Trump is your guy. Leo rising, Mars and Leo on the ascendant, the sun god, Temple of Apollo at the top of Trump Tower. He's a modern day mythological character. We are now kind of awash in this new rebranding of archetypes, and Julian Assange is one of them. Julian Assange is going to play the role of a Cyberchrist. Let me show you a picture. I grabbed this off the internet. This is one of his, let's find it here. This is one of his pictures that was released. It was released on his capture. It's a very interesting image. Just have to grab it. It's up here somewhere. One second. Here it is. Here we go. Here's Assange. Look familiar? This is Julian Assange, and he is basically in the pose of the Cyberchrist. He's got handcuffs on, right? He's got handcuffs on. He's been ratted out for, guess what? Not 40 pieces of silver, but $4.5 billion. $4.5 billion. Where am I getting that figure from? Well, Ecuador was just given a $4.5 billion loan from the IMF. And guess who managed that? Mike Pence. So they say that they released him for rudeness, spying, and poop. So this was on March 12th. Let me screen share this with you guys. IMF approves $4.2 billion loan for Ecuador. So we're talking 29 days, roughly, from the time this happens to the time that Julian Assange is expelled. It says the International Monetary Fund on Monday approved a $4.2 billion 3-year loan. Oh, good luck paying that off, 3 years. Part of a broader aid package to help support the government's economic reform. The Washington-based lender agreed to the terms of the financing late last month, and the final approval of the IMF board on Monday releases the first installment of the $652 million. So they're going to get $652 million, first installment. The IMF managing director, Christine Lagarde, remember her? Remember her when she did all those weird, like, symbols and things around sevens? So the aid will support the government's efforts to shore up its finances, including a wage realignment, gradual lowering of fuel subsidies, and reduction of public debt. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Ecuadorian authorities are implementing a comprehensive reform program aimed at modernizing the economy, paving the way for strong, sustained, equitable growth, blah, 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 blah. Then they give up Assange. There's your pieces of silver right there. That's it. There it is. And Mike Pence helped broker this deal. So Pence is involved. Pence, by the way, right? Pence, half Pence, another sort of unit of economy, correct? So now we have Julian Assange as being set up as the Cyberchrist, because everything is moving in that direction. He was given up by the Ecuadorians. Now the new Romans are coming to get him. Coming to get him. There he is. And I think it's all theater, to be honest with you. I think it's complete theater. So I looked again, I tried to find another point in time when this Saturn-Pluto conjunction took place. So I was working off of Heather's kind of springboard with Saturn-Pluto during the Reformation. Now, what I was trying to find is I was trying to find not only Saturn-Pluto, but I was also trying to find if there was a time when the nodes were involved, specifically the true node in the sign of Cancer. And I found a period of time. You have to go way back. You have to go to 548. Okay? 548 is a long frickin' time ago. Long time ago. 548 and 549. It's really the end, towards the end of the Byzantine Empire. 548 is interesting. 549 and 550 are even more interesting. And in 549, we're still dealing with those nodes. Okay. So let's see. In 549, the siege of Rome. The Ostrogoths under Totila besiege Rome for the third time under Belisarius. After Belisarius returned to Constantinople, he offers a peace agreement. So the Visigoths are getting ready to, they're sacking Rome right around this time, right? We really begin to see Christianity and Catholicism take off. So in 549, the Transfiguration of Christ, mosaic in the apse, Church of the Virgin, St. Catherine's Monastery in Egypt, that's made. The Fifth Council of Orleans, 9 archbishops, 41 bishops pronounce an anathema against the errors of Nestorius Matthias. So we're getting into biblical scholarship now. Bishop Maximarius of Ravenna consecrates the Basilica of Saint Apollinaire, Saint Apollo in Sias, and then the Roman Catholic Diocese of Ossory, which still exists, is founded in Ireland. So we see at that time in 549, 550, that Christianity is on the rise. Okay. What we see with the next Saturn-Pluto conjunction is that Catholicism splits and we have the Reformation. So these are the two Saturn-Pluto, big Saturn-Pluto conjunctions. Now, in the history of the United States, we have Pluto and Capricorn, but Saturn was never conjunct during that time. We have to go all the way back to that period of the Reformation. So in 550, we have Charharic, who's the king of the Suevi. He's converting to Catholicism. There's another diocese in Ireland that is created. And in 550, the main redaction of the Babylonian Talmud is completed under Rabbis, Ravina, and Ashi. So in 550, we see the launching of the Talmud. Isn't that interesting? And that's just after the Saturn-Pluto conjunction with the nodes in Cancer and Capricorn. True node in Cancer, South node in Capricorn. When are we going to see the next big eclipse with the sun, it's going to be December 26th. It's going to be December 26th, and that's where we're going to have all those planets aligned in Capricorn. Excuse me. This is a big time. It's a very big time. Happening just one day after the theoretical birth of Christ. One day after, 26th. And that brings us into that portal between December, January, and February, where we have the conjunction, the exact conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. And this is a precursor to that time. This is what's happening right now. Because Julian Assange is being set up to be crucified. That's what's happening. Julian Assange is the Cyberchrist. And I think he's a player. Whether or not he's actually crucified or not, that's a whole other deal. Because I think he's an actor. And I think he's been involved in a very deep game of misdirection. And it's so funny how this whole thing is just getting so twisted. You know, Trump was really pro Julian Assange. I love WikiLeaks, yada, yada, yada. And then he says, oh, who's that? I don't know anything about WikiLeaks. And he may be trolling Assange. He may be trolling everybody. Maybe that's the Trump thing, right? And now people who have championed Julian Assange, like Michael Moore. Michael Moore is like, oh, he's a hero. He's a hero. We've got to support Julian Assange. Now he's like, bring the bastard back. Let's lynch him. We want him. Because damn it, he's responsible. He's responsible. Russian collusion, right? The WikiLeaks dump, he's responsible. Let's crucify the bastard. Where have you heard that before? All the people who theoretically supported Julian Assange now want to hang him. They want to hang him from his toes because they believe that he's responsible for providing all the information which led to Hillary Clinton's historic. History's going to look back on that election, and people's minds are going to be blown, absolutely blown. But now they want him. They want to crucify him. And what does Trump do? He denies him. He denies him. Where have we seen the denial before? We've seen the denial of Christ through his disciples. You'll deny me. And Trump is denying Julian Assange. This is playing into this modern mythos of Assange as the Cyber Christ. That's what's happening. So what happens now? What happens? Why is this all taking place? Because if Assange is indeed being set up as the Cyber Christ to be crucified, then what takes place after that? It's the third temple. It's what Julian wanted. Not Julian Assange, but Julian, the historical figure. And as we've seen before, in 548, 549, 550, the launch of the Talmud, okay? In 550, Saturn goes into Aquarius, by the way. So we're out of that Saturn-Pluto conjunction briefly. What do we see with the Reformation? It is the end of that period. And then we have a split and a bifurcation of faith. It's calling me again. I gotta decline that. And now what are we seeing? We're going to be seeing in my estimation, the virtual end of Christianity. This is part of this now, because based on these patterns in time, there has to be a new religion that comes out as a result of this. And that new religion will not have anything, okay, the new temple will not have anything to do specifically with Judaism. It will be part of Judaism. But in my estimation, the new temple will be something that would be akin to some kind of syncretic religion, where Islam, Christianity, Judaism all come together under one umbrella, that the Abrahamic religions begin to merge back again, and something new is born out of this. Now, I've always thought that that religion would be Baha'i. And I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But Baha'i always felt like it was just ready, kind of just simmering on the back burner there. But they may have a different name, or they have a new consecration. So I think this is the plan. And Assange is part of it. His public persecution and crucifixion, which will happen, that's part of it as well. And I think, quite frankly, most of it is staged. Because if you look at Assange and go back and really dig into the roots and his connection with WikiLeaks and the intelligence agencies, the United States, and even Israel, I'll give you a quote. I'll give you a quote from Netanyahu. Okay. It's a very interesting quote. Let me find this thing. Fascinating quote. Zbigniew Brzezinski said that WikiLeaks is an intelligence operation using pointed information carefully seeded into a combination of minor scandals and chicken feed. That came from one of the global chess masters. Asian intelligence, quote, WikiLeaks is US intelligence itself. Julian Assange was a fan of the Bilderberg Group. Said it was just a normal meeting of people. In January 2007, John Young, who runs cryptome.org, left WikiLeaks, claimed that it was a CIA front. Julian Assange did not like 9/11 truthers. He says, I'm constantly annoyed that people are distracted by false conspiracies such as 9/11. That's his quote. Now, do you trust this guy? Do you really trust Julian Assange? He's got a newspaper. He's holding up, The Guardian. 9/11, not an inside job. Julian Assange is a plant. Here's what Netanyahu says about WikiLeaks. Israel has not been damaged at all by the WikiLeaks publications. On the contrary, the documents showed support in many quarters for Israel's assessments, especially on Iran. So there's a woman, her name is Lisa Abramovich. She's an Israeli-born investigative journalist. She says she's found evidence that Julian Assange struck a deal with Israel. She said Julian Assange agreed to withhold cables incriminating Israel. Reportedly, Abramovich cites WikiLeaks spokesperson Daniel Domscheit-Berg as her source. Domscheit-Berg reportedly said that Assange received money from semi-official Israeli. What is this? Okay. There we go. Sorry. I'm distracted. So there's a lot going on here. This is, I mean, don't get hooked in by the Assange narrative. Okay? Don't get hooked in. It is theater. It's theater of on a grand scale. Theater on a grand scale. Julian Assange was raised by the family in Australia, and they have a very close connection to Australian intelligence and the CIA. The family was that strange blonde group of kids that were dosed with LSD. One of the founders of the family was Anne Hamilton Byrne, and Assange was part of that group as a young child. Very strange. Very strange. Don't get sucked in. And what we're going to see, and where are we now? We're in the season of Easter, right? We're in the season of Easter and the season of crucifixion. Hello. Look at the timing of the event. It's pageantry. It is religio-mythical pageantry with Julian Assange being set up to be the Cyber Christ. That's what's happening. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. All right, let me check in with you guys. Let me check in. Abramovich. It's a different spelling of Abramovich. It's with a T, by the way. It took a global village to pull off 9/11, but it was also an inside job. Wasn't there an unflattering doc made a bit ago? This clears up a lot for me. Thank you. What else do we have? Julian Apostate ultimately failed. He did. Absolutely, he did fail. Trump is Peter. He's denying Julian Assange. Absolutely. Pence is Pontius Pilate. Who's getting the shekels? Is it Pence? I think Pence is Pilate. Pence is Pilate. Let's see. Jennifer says, last month I dreamt of the planets lining up, seeing the sky with planets lined up. Haven't remembered this till now. I dreamt of John too. I feel so down about the Assange thing. It's exposing to a greater extent how we're living in dictatorships masquerading as democracy. We're living beyond dictatorships. These are gangs. These people are gangs. They're high-level gangs. That's what they are. We're dealing with high-level gangs and crime bosses. That's what they are, period. The first Jesuit Pope was trying to bring in the one world religion, constantly going to the Middle East. He was just in Sudan. He was kissing the feet of the Sudanese. I think this Pope is a foot fetish. Pence. Could be the cosmic influence creating pageantry. Could be. Could be the cosmic influence. We're in the pageantry now. We're watching it. We're witnessing because what happens, right, is we have this recreation of the crucifixion of Christ, the passion of the Christ. And it's recreated every single year. And it's being recreated before our very eyes right now, with Julian Assange as the Cyber Christ. That's what's going on. That's what's taking place. Trump is Peter. It's denying him. Absolutely. My stream just cut off for the second time. They seem to be on my ass today. What else? What else is happening? Any links with Israeli moon landing failing yesterday? Oh man, I don't know. I got no links to that at all. No links to that at all. Sorry. Now he emerged from a cave. That's right. He emerged from a cave. Exactly. He's been in a cave theoretically for 7 years. We think he's been there for that amount of time. We don't know. We don't know at all. So there we go. The staged crucifixion of Julian Assange as Cyberchrist. Don't fall for it. I don't know what the antidote or the remedy is to it. Sit back and watch. But I think from here on out, they're going to unroll the plans. You're going to see the revelation of the method. That's what's taking place. The revelation of the method. Right before our very eyes. Stay out of the bleeding heart stuff. Shed no tears for Julian Assange. Or Daniel Manning, Chelsea Manning, or Snowden. They're all operatives. They're all spooks. If they wanted to take Julian Assange out, they could have done so at any time. Trust me. If they didn't want Snowden, they could have grabbed Snowden at any time. They could have grabbed him in Hong Kong. They could have grabbed him when he put his stupid little thumb drive into the mainframe computers. Are you kidding me? Do you think our security systems are that archaic? If they wanted to, they could send somebody to Russia. They could take him out, not a problem. They can heart attack people. Think of directed energy systems. Think of people that are being attacked, right? Happens all the time. Think of all the people who are, think of the healers, the doctors who've died over the recent years. If they want you out, man, it's very hard to stick around. Getting Julian Assange, they could have expired him if they wanted to. They could have pulsed that embassy, subsonic frequencies, probably could have ruptured his heart. If they wanted to. But they let him continue to do what he did, and he was there for a reason. Now he's there for another reason. That's an extraction, not an extradition. Okay? All right. I think I'm out here. Just don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. Just watch it all unfold. Watch the passion of the Cyberchrist unfold before your very eyes. Okay? All right. I think that's enough for the day. We've covered about as much as we can. Let's see. Look up Invictus porn on True Criminal Networks. Eileen, good analysis. Thanks, Eileen. I appreciate, respect that coming from you. Perhaps he, like many, have divine protection. I don't know. I think he's got the protection of people in high places. Other than that makes him divine. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to what's possible. Because what's possible really is that they're hijacking our future. And what's possible for us is in many ways what they're actually artificially staging for us, right? The real resurrection is the resurrection within each and every one of us in what I would call the new Aquarian age, which is a beautiful thing. Before I go away, I just got to tell you guys a really good story. It's a good story. And it has to do with what's going on with our fluoride stuff. I just got to tell you guys this story. It's a water story. So, okay. We do a little networking here in Fredericksburg, and one of our allies in a really nice group has become the Tea Party. because the Tea Party is open to this idea of informed consent and choice. They don't want people, let alone governments, telling them what to do or what to put in their water, right? So we go to the Tea Party once a month and we present for about 3 minutes. We give them an update on what's going on with our campaign. Super nice, really nice people. And a couple other people have come over to some of our meetings. So we've got this nice kind of interstitial bond with the Tea Party people. And it's cool. Now, the demographic, number one, they're religious, Christians, faith is real important to them, and they're older. Like, I'd be considered one of the kids of the Tea Party, believe it or not. I think probably the median age is probably around 61, 62, and I'm trending at the bottom of that. So these are salt of the earth people. People believe in freedom. People believe in God. I'm good with all that. And they're really kind to us. So we went last night. I showed up late, a little late. Jeanette, who's part of our group, wonderful person, absolute bulldog when it comes to this whole fluoride mission. She spoke, and there's this guy, okay? He's been coming to our video presentations. And he came to our first video presentation, and he's a former dentist. And he decided that he was going to take us on. Okay? And I didn't know who he was, but I looked at him. I'm like, who is this guy? You know, he's tighty-whitey. He's got a big stack of material. I was like, I gotta watch this guy. So we gave a presentation, and I said, questions, anybody? And I talked about this. It's like there was a lot going on. I thought, okay, you know, I was a bit distracted. This is doing about 4 things at once. So then he launches into this piece about trials and tests, and he's really being very aggressive. And at some point, you know, I'm trying to be cool and kind and trying to figure out where this guy's coming from. And then he says, well, I'm with you on this notion that you have a choice of what you want in your water. Well, great. You're with us on that. So then why are you taking us on with this other stuff? Why are you so adamantly putting your foot down and rolling out your science? And I could sit here and I could go roll out our science, and we could sit here and do this all day. All day. Because that's the way the stuff works. That's the way the fluoride tests work. That's the way it is. We've all got fluoride, so much of it. It's not naturally occurring in the body, but we have it all in our systems now. So this guy, he came back again. He was there on Monday night. I wasn't there. He left, though, halfway through. So thinking, okay, what's going on with this dude? Now he decides that he wants to come to the Tea Party. And he wants to lecture to the Tea Party people, right? So dude's on a mission. He's a retired dentist. He's in his 80s. He's on a mission. And he wants to inform people. That's fine. It's America. Do your best, man. Take your best shot. So Jeanette goes up. She does her thing for 3 minutes. And he gets up. And the thing I love about Jeanette is that Jeanette is not the most polished speaker. She's not. And she'd probably be the first person to admit it. But what she is, she's honest, and she is earnest, and she's passionate. And all of those trump being articulate and slick. Okay? Trust me. People are more willing to embrace somebody who has vulnerability. People are more willing to bring them into their fold than somebody. It's like, in a lot of ways, that's why Mitt Romney was a terrible candidate, because he was too slick. He was too perfect, except for those years. So Jeanette got up there. She did her thing. People love her. Clap. So then this guy gets up. And he's got everything on a piece of paper. He's only got 3 minutes now. He's got everything in a piece of paper. He's got a speech. You know, and Jeanette's just up there speaking from her heart. He's like, my name is so-and-so. Well, who is so-and-so? So-and-so is, he's starting to talk about himself in third person now. You know, a citizen of your community for the last 30 years, a retired dentist. He served in the army, right? He's establishing his bona fides. He's got a speech. He worked on this damn thing. So then he gets to the fluoride part. He goes to this one study back from the 40s. Ridiculous. And he's trying to cram it all in. And then we've got some allies on the Tea Party side, and they're hitting them kind of hard for the time, right? 2 minutes, 1 minute. You know, so he's like, anyway, he kind of rolls it all out, kind of has to finish abruptly. So we don't get to rebut. Yeah, people clap for him. It's a polite crowd. So then this woman comes up. Her name is Dr. Laura Presley. Okay, she's the featured speaker. Impressive woman. She's got a PhD. She's got a PhD in molecular biology. Okay, she's a doctor in molecular biology. She's worked with Silicon Valley companies. And the reason she's there is because she's there. She's a watchdog now for voter fraud. She ran for office in Austin. The election was stolen from her. She figured it out because of her background with computers, data analysis, subsets, groups, etc. She figured it out. She went to 2 courts here in Texas. Both times, both courts, they shut her down. They fined her. Frivolous lawsuit, $125,000 in fines. She's got 1 court left to go. It's a Texas State Supreme Court. She brought her evidence, and they unanimously voted in her favor. Yes, indeed, her election had been stolen. So all those fines went away. She's had to pay her legal bills. She's still working on those. Smart lady. So she comes up right after this guy. She says, just want to talk about the fluoride thing for a moment. I'm a molecular biologist. I've got a PhD in it. I have studied the fluoride issue inside and out. In Austin, where I'm from, I've worked assiduously to remove the fluoride. And let me tell you something. There is no safe level of any amount of fluoride in water that is combined with the powdery substance that's supposed to pass for mother's milk, right? Instamilk. So that's what happens. You get the water, you get the Instamilk, you mix it all together. Those babies are getting high amounts of fluoride, and no level is safe. Formula. So you mix the formula and the water together, that's what the babies are getting. She says there's no level that's safe for them. They don't have the development to deal with that. And she said, I've got a PhD in molecular biology. I studied this inside and out. I was involved in the San Marcos fight to have their water, their fluoride removed from their water. And she nailed this guy, just nailed him. And at the end, we're all just laughing. It's like, you can't plan that. You can't plan that stuff. You know, and there's some really interesting pieces that are associated with that. One of them is that the guy had so much tunnel vision. He was so focused. He apparently had called the Tea Party group like 4 or 5 times and was really angry and upset. I mean, his worldview is being really threatened. The guy's 80 years old and his paradigm is being shaken. I get it. He's really holding on to those shaking pillars, right? That's what he's doing. best of his ability. He had no idea, neither did I, neither did anybody else in that room, that this woman who was there to talk about voter fraud was a freaking expert on fluoride and anti-fluoridation. Now, these people, again, being religious, in the Christian sense, you know, they're like, you know, praise God. And I'm like, I'm down with that. You know, you probably you won't really get into what I do for a living, but I'm clearly like in your camp, on your side. I don't, you know, I've got no problem with it. And then you look at it, it's like, you know, it's kind of interesting how these kind of strange sacred synchronicities show up. So there were people who maybe this guy might have gotten through to their heads a little bit. And then all of a sudden, this really credible, smart, engaging, earnest woman with bona fides comes in and just takes the hammer to it. Those people are going to leave that event thinking about that, having that feeling being associated with their experience. And I'm sharing this with you because sometimes we get lost in this world where it feels like we don't have a shot, we don't have any hope, that the forces of positivity and love and goodness are not on our side. And I'm here to tell you they are. They're on our side. You have to initiate it. You have to be engaged. You have to walk your talk. And sometimes that's hard. You know, sometimes it can be very exacting. You know, we're shown where we can grow and where, you know, where we're deficient. It's an ongoing process and an evolution. But if you commit to that process and you commit to it in a way where, even on a simple kind of level that we're doing here, you can see tiny little miracles happen. Witnessed one last night. And God bless this guy. You know, he's, like I said, you know, there's a 10.0 earthquake going on in his world right now. You know, his temple's shaking, and he's holding on to those columns as tight as he can. And if he just let go a little bit, he might find out that it would be a lot easier. You know, he's getting towards the end of his life. Maybe this is the last thing you can hold on to. You know, and I've had to deal with my animus towards this guy in my own way. And it's like, come on, dude. What are you doing? You're being a pain in the ass, right? And I had to get out of my own way around it. Because when it all happened, it's like, see, this is where when we have systems of control cannot begin to even approximate what took place. Nobody knew it was going to happen. I'll give you another example. It's a sports example. I like to follow sports, and I like to follow the NBA, football. The NBA is interesting now because there are really iconic figures. There's LeBron James, the king, right? The king, the great one. He's a Capricorn. He's been coronated to be the next Michael Jordan, and by some people, even more than that. LeBron James, since he was young, from the age of 12, you know, he's been anointed, you know, the Messiah of basketball. But now we have Zion Williamson coming in, who may topple the king, theoretically, or may not. But LeBron has done everything about his life has been scripted. You know, it's been scripted in total control. Capricorn, total control. He went to Cleveland, basically his hometown. He grew up in Akron, not far from Cleveland. He was a high school basketball player, superstar, didn't go to college. And they have a draft, an NBA draft, miraculously. Cleveland Cavaliers got the first pick in the draft, through the draft lottery. Miraculously, LeBron James becomes a Cavalier, right? Gets to play to the home crowd. And he is very close to having a title, but not close enough. So he has to betray the home fans. And again, a very scripted kind of reality on live TV, announces to Cleveland and the rest of the world, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. He goes to Miami, the Heat. They win 2 championships there. Scripted. Says he's going to win 7. They win 2. The team gets older. They don't have enough players around him. What does he do? He decides to go back to Cleveland. Scripted. I'm going to be coming home. It's the homecoming. It's the prodigal son. Except the prodigal son, he's back. They were burning his jerseys in Cleveland. The owner excoriated him. But now they're back. Now he's back. Oh, LeBron. What does he do? Brings him a title. Why? Steph Curry's hurt. Draymond Green, key player, suspended for the last big game. Suspended. Andrew Bogut, their center, hurt. Scripted. It's a title. Last year, not so scripted. Couldn't get the title. But the next chapter in the script of LeBron James is he's going to Los Angeles. He's going to Los Angeles to fulfill his destiny. Go west, young man. City of Angels. The king cometh. So he goes there. The general manager is Irvin Magic Johnson. It's Magic in the King. Magic's a Leo. The sun, Apollo. And Magic was everything to the Lakers. So what happens? LeBron gets there. The minute he gets there, the minute he steps down, he's into production deals. He's got 30 production deals going on. He's got a TV series that airs on HBO, and he's got his fingers in everything. It's not just LeBron James basketball player anymore. It's LeBron James mogul. This is LeBron James's move to become king of Hollywood, king of California, king of LA. But somewhere along the way, he's got a few missteps. And somewhere along the way, the people of Los Angeles begin to reject LeBron James. They go out, they build a team. They have all these players that they're bringing in so they can play with LeBron James. And on Christmas Day, of all days, the king falls. He suffers a groin injury playing his nemesis, the Golden State Warriors. He's not the same. Stays out for a long period of time. When he comes back, he's not the same player. Groin injuries are tricky if you're an athlete. Take a very long time to come back from them. Eric Wright used to play for the Warriors, never came back from his groin injury. So in the meantime, LeBron James and his people decide that they're going to flex their muscle. That they're going to go out, they're going to find a player that can bring the Lakers into the playoffs and bring them, hopefully, a championship in LeBron's first season. Well, LeBron's team is very powerful. A lot of powerful people represent a lot of powerful athletes, one of which is Anthony Davis. Plays for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's the owner of a unibrow. So they decide that they're going to get Anthony Davis to pout, cry, to pretend he has an injury, so they could trade half the team for Anthony Davis and bring him to LA and pair him with LeBron. Because LeBron wants a young superstar. Well, somebody didn't pass the memo to the owner of the New Orleans Pelicans, Gail Benson, who took over the team because her husband Tom died last year. Gail owns the Pelicans and she owns the Saints. She's not part of the good old boys club. She didn't like it. She said he has a contract. I want him to play out his contract. Gee, what an idea. What a notion. Gail Benson did not allow the trade. Now, from a basketball perspective, would have been better for the Pelicans to get all those assets from the Lakers? I think so. But guess what she did? On principle, she said no. LeBron did not get his way. In that moment, the script ended. When he got to LA, there was some other energy, right? A new script for LeBron. And it wasn't LeBron. And it's kind of like Humpty Dumpty and all the king's horses and all the king's men. All of his worldly power and clout. Like this, he's friends with Warren Buffett. He knows really powerful people. You know, he's into the soft version of the Illuminati, by the way. He's been initiated. He knows all that stuff. Even with all of that, they could not put together a script where LeBron stays healthy and gets everybody that he wants, and then he wins the championship. It was on Christmas Day that he actually suffered his fall. Isn't that interesting? Even though Christmas has its own other weird kind of pagan roots, LeBron fell on Christmas Day. And there was a new script being written. And I'm just sharing this with you because I'm not looking at this from a place of schadenfreude. Like, ha ha, LeBron, you know. Well, how I'm looking at this is that people who are mighty and powerful and who seem to have every single asset at their disposal are sometimes impotent in the face of the logos and cosmic justice. Just remember that. Watch this story unfold. Just watch it. And this is a time where we're going to see people for who they are. Their character, their essence is going to be revealed. Magic Johnson, same deal. I watched his press conference. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. Magic had reached his apotheosis, the end of the line. Ain't no more magic there. I can tell you that right now. No magic left. These are interesting times. Just pay attention. Know that the miraculous, the synchronistic, the cosmically ordained and divine is still in play in our lives. And what you want to do is you want to court that. You want to be on that side. That's the side you want to be on. Because that's the side that's going to get you through this time. You know, that is the laser beam of light that takes you right through the eye of the needle. Okay? All right, I'm out of here. Thanks for allowing me to share my 2 cents, now like 8 cents. It's been great having this time together with you today. So use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to see what's possible. I'll see you guys on Sunday night. Check me out, robertphoenix.com also as well, and over on Facebook. Take care for now.